Let me know when you see the live button.
Yeah, I see it. It just came through.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. Welcome back. Another episode of Renew Your Finance. I'm your host, Adrian, and we got your co-host, Rondell Smith.
Evening, everyone.
All right. Thank you all again for joining us as we talk all things finances. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into this thing, man. We had an excellent session. If you were able to view our last session or join us live with the kids, where we talked to some very impressive young teenagers and young adults last week that really sparked some good conversation for us. We're going to dig into that to jump things off tonight. But without further ado, we'll do a quick recap and then we'll jump right into tonight's topic. All right, Rondell, say them.
So those who have joined us during the last session, or maybe some of you who have already viewed the video, we were talking to some young adults in regards to, how that in today's world, they can find themselves in a situation where they're compelled to indulge in some of these financial activities that some of the other peers are doing. And so we received a lot of feedback from them, and also received some feedback from their parents. And a lot of the young adults on the call, we all have our vices, and they talk mainly about some of the vices that they had. Some was partial to, eating out a lot and going to certain restaurants with friends and others. Others were partial to certain clothing items, sneakers and things of that nature, because those things are popular, and they felt left out, when they didn't have a certain brand of shoe, or if a family member bought a certain brand of shoe and they didn't have the same brand of shoe. And then we had one highly intelligent young lady up there talked about that from her culture or family, so to speak, that it was more like a mainstay or a staple point within her family that you had to dress a certain way when you are out in the house. In the city that she lived in, based upon where they live at, that fashion is a major force where she lives and she comes from. And so taking in all that information from those young adults, and then again, I thank all the parents. If you happen to watch this video, I thank all of you for allowing your children to participate during that time. We have received a request from one of the parents. One of the parents felt compelled to say that, hey, we need to have this same type of conversation where we have, just as the kids were very transparent in some of the things and some of the questions that we were discussing. And if you haven't viewed it, go back and view it. You can see some of the questions that was proposed to the kids and some of the responses that they gave us. They felt, or this individual felt, that we should do this for the adults. Now, this is where I ask you to, well, I may put a precursor, forgive me out there. But
take the kid gloves off. Go on, take the gloves off.
Whether you do or you don't, that's what it is. So,
right.
Me and Adrian started going through discussions for the last, I think we've been talking about this about 2 weeks now, right?
Yeah, we actually been touching on it for a couple of months now, back and forth about, doing something with the adults and some of the apprehensions that we think most people have.
Right. Yeah. And so when we were discussing this, that, I truthfully don't think anybody has enough courage or balls to really talk about this with a level of transparency. And my reasoning behind that is because of values, and that's some of the things that we're going to get in tonight, that we're going to talk about values, because we all have different value systems. I know I had. And I know the family that I was raised in had a value system. But we're talking about values in the context of finances, money in this case. And we look at it differently. Every family, every person, every social, economical circle that you may operate in has a financial value, whether you believe that or not. I truly believe that. And that's what drives you to do or make some financial decisions that you do. So we're going to talk about values, financial values. And then we're going to talk about, possibly how you may possibly value money. Let's just say I will talk about myself, because I can't talk about you, because you may value differently from me.
Right.
And how that even when we were choosing who we were going to marry or date or something like that, they come into the picture or the relationship with different financial values that you have to understand and know. And then we're gonna, open up the aperture a little bit more, and we're gonna talk about, do we really even respect money? I mean, let's be honest.
Yep.
Is that something that we respect? How do we look at it in such a way? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying worship money. That's right. So don't take that from what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that, do you respect the time and effort that you take to make that dollar?
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, because if you do, then it sometimes leads to you to make certain decisions because you knew what the effort it took behind for you to make that dollar. Hey, a dollar is a dollar. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I heard on the news today, that YOLO done came back to the news today, MSNBC Money. They're talking about we're still in a YOLO type of state. And we'll get into that as we get to that particular point in this discussion. But that's what we wanted to discuss with you tonight. And so so me and Adrian will tell you how we got to this value piece and how financial value. So Adrian, when you came up, what was in your family or in the circles that you ran with, we mostly ran in the same circles, how was your value when it comes down to finance? How was that molded and shaped and established?
I guess my value system was a little bit different because we didn't have a lot coming up. And I learned at a very young age that, in order to get money to get some of the things that you wanted, you had to work for it. So like, we worked out on my grandfather's farm. We started out, in the cucumber fields, $1 a bushel. Out in the cucumber field, picking up cucumbers. Every bushel you got, they gave you $1. So, we was out there hustling, So I knew what it took to get that bushel of cucumbers, and I knew, a value of $1. So to me, that dollar meant that I had to, work out in that hot sun, So to me, $1 meant hard work. So I kind of I've always had more of a respect for earning money and what it takes to earn money because of how I was brought up. I didn't, we didn't have, an overabundance money coming into the house, and then, when my mom was single, it was just me, her, and my brother, she was a single mom, so she did the best she could. So like I said, we didn't have an overabundance of things, but I knew how to work, and I knew, from the age of 12 on up, how we valued money, and, you got your little dollars and, you was able to, felt like you could you could buy your own little He-Man action figures or your G.I. Joes and those type things. So that's how I valued money. I think I always learned at an early age that you work hard and then you can get some of the things that you wanted. So that was for me, how I came up.
I will be honest with you that as a kid, I ain't value money at all. Because so let's be honest. As a child, maybe, 8, 9, 10, I was given the dollar that I was able to get. I was not cognizant how hard it took my mother, father, or my grandmother. What did it take for them to get that dollar? So I didn't value it. So I would go below it instantly. Okay. I had $1. I remember it. If my grandmother gave me $1, and there was across the street from her home was this, this old store where you can go in there and get a 25-cent soda, and you can get a number of other things. That's what a quarter, for some of you young Thundercats on the call, that's when the quarter went a long way. It's like $2.25 to get a soda out the store now, but back then you can get a
hot dog, a bag of chips, and a drink
with $1. So and so instantly when I got the money in my hand, it was, I wanted to spend it because because what I learned and understood at the time that I was given that money is that money is meant to be spent. And so I will immediately go spend it. So as I transverse through, teenage years, and again, I come from a working class family. They work for everything that they got. And sometimes they worked in certain industries or did certain jobs that it wasn't like one of those executive jobs. It was a job that needed to make ends meet. And so when I became of a certain age, like yourself, you worked in the cucumber fields. I've worked in the cucumber field before, but I still didn't understand the value of a dollar. Understand, that it is not hard to come by because it's hard to come by. Excuse me. Until I had to buy my own school clothes for the first time. And so until I had to cut grass one summer in order to just have shoes, because for some of us that may tune in, you may or may not have ever went to school with holes in your shoes. I've been to school with holes in my shoes. I can still remember the brand of shoes that I wore that had holes in it, which were Reeboks at the time, high top, mid top Reeboks at the time. And those are the shoes that I was wearing, at the time, because we just didn't have the money. There was a lot of us that was living in my grandmother's house. And when you only got so much income in, but you got a lot of responsibility, you have to do what you can do with what you got at the time. And so the first time I learned the value of a dollar is cutting my grandmother's next door neighbor's yard the entire summer to earn enough money to buy the shoes that I need so I wouldn't have to go to school with holes in my shoes. Do I regret that? No, because that has started to shape my mindset how to value money, that money is not easily to come by. And
right.
And we'll be crazy not to see what's going on around us, that some of the financial decisions that are being made is being made because of the lack thereof money.
Right.
So you have to respect what you earn. And then from that point on, I started working in the summers at various jobs that my grandmother was able to get me due to her, doing taxes for certain people. And I was earning to buy my own school clothes. And I started buying my own school clothes ever since that point up to graduating from high school. I've always purchased my own school clothes. So my foundational value of money, not finances, because I still didn't know what finances were.
Right.
Exactly. And that's a whole nother realm where we may understand and value money, but we have yet to learn to understand to be able to value finances.
Right.
So that's how I learned how to value money, because I had to start paying for my own school clothes.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, that value that we learned. So basically, what we learned was a work ethic. We learned a work ethic to what it took to earn that dollar. But like you said, there's a second component of that we did not learn at that age, and that was about finances in general as a whole.
Yeah.
And that comes from like learning how to save some of that money. Like I didn't have a savings account back then. I didn't know about saving. Every dollar I worked hard for, I put that towards something. I spent that towards something, like you said, school clothes, or or going out to eat with friends, or I wasn't reliant on my parents to provide money for me.
Right.
Because even in high school, I was always, trying to figure out some kind of entrepreneurial, way to make money. And, and I didn't gravitate to what most other people were doing. But I did take one of their principles. And you know that in high school, when, we saw the drug dealers, were drilling their thing. We all knew who the drug dealers were in school.
Yeah.
So my thing was, I was at Bojangles making what, $5, $4.35 an hour, work a whole week and make $75. So to me, that same work ethic and mindset, I always knew how to make a dollar. but I didn't know how to manage a dollar, so to speak. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So because
Yeah.
I took that same principle, like I'm saying with the drug dealing thing, is I used to buy, like, remember when I used to buy the candy from Walmart or
Yep.
Sam's Club,
I remember.
and I would
I remember.
I would take that candy and then I'd freeze it overnight, had a bag with a little bag, and I bought some finger hut with my initials on it, had an A on it, and I
Yeah.
would go around and sell candy. I sold candy bars, blow pops, 25 cents, and this kind of stuff. And I was able to take $75 that I earned that week and turn it into $150 by the end of the week. So, I always was, knew how to value a dollar, how to make a dollar, but nobody taught me how to manage a dollar. So,
Yeah.
which is where the difference was. So,
And that's where we find ourselves when these things, in my opinion, will grow with you over time.
right.
You learn how to make a dollar, but you never learn how to manage a dollar. You don't know the
Right.
finances behind a dollar, and that goes into your adulthood. It also plays a role when you start choosing partners, or you have already chosen your partner, because there's people that I've managed in my career being in the United States military, and there's people that I've managed currently today in my current job that still displays the same values when it comes down to money or finances when they did when they were either young adolescents or teens or young adults. They display that right now, and we're in our 30s, 40s, and early 50s.
Oh yeah.
And so that's where I know that this subject, when it's talking about finances, when you get older, it becomes a little bit more, I don't really want to talk about that. Is
right. Most of us are embarrassed. For the most part, most of us, at least when I was talking about, if I was to go in a circle and talk about my finances, 4 or 5 years ago, and to actually, Dave got a saying that says you can find out who's skinny dipping when the tide goes out. So,
what?
they say you find out who's skinny dipping when the tide goes out.
Okay.
So, like, if you're in the ocean and the tide goes out, the water goes down, and you see who ain't got no
okay. I will track it. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So, a lot of us, we look like we have it all cranked up, but if you pull back the layers, it's actually quite, embarrassing to say for some people. I mean, me included.
I will tell you right now, you and I, for the number of years that we've known each other, we never talked about each other's finances.
Yeah. I never knew not once how much one of your car notes were. Like, I knew you had a car note, but I didn't know how much it was.
Never.
That was like taboo. We never talked about that kind of
stuff.
So
we never talked about each other's finances. And I'm gonna tell you right now, guys, we've known each other for years. We talked about a lot of stuff. We done a lot of stuff too, but we never we seen each other do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we talked about that, but we
never talked about finances, and we never touched the subject. And I think it goes back to what you're saying is that there may be an embarrassment about it, or there be maybe an invasion of privacy. That So some of the people that I had mentored, on my job and during my time in the military about this subject, they did not. They were very standoffish when we started talking about finances.
Which I understand.
They were willing to talk about how their wives were or their significant others. Well, the ladies would talk about their husbands and those who I manage, and the women would talk about. The wives. The husband would talk about the wives, those who I manage. But they would not put themselves in the equation when they want to talk about finances. Stuff like that. And that goes to show you that, in society, and this is where I have this is my issue. We have no problem of talking about objectively someone else in the same context that we're discussing right now. We'll talk about another person's finances and what they're doing. Such and such just got a brand new car. He he can't afford that car. But we real talk. Let me just be 100.
Yeah.
We'll say that in a minute. Like, they always getting a new car. Where are they getting all that money from? They probably can't afford it. They credit probably they probably got bills out of their eyeballs. But when it comes down to ourselves, subjectively, we would not talk about that subject, even with our significant others. There's people that I know, not on this call, that I know that when it comes down to talking about money, they won't cross streams. The husband is like, you know what? I have an account. This is how we do it. This is how we roll. This is how I roll anyway. And people are still running around here with secret accounts, and that the other doesn't even know that the other has a secret account when they both got secret accounts. They both are. I would tell you right now, when me and Stephanie was about to get married, and some of you guys are going to probably say, you know what, that's a little bit too much, man. You went a little too far. No, we had put all bills on the table. I'll kid you not. When me and Stephanie got married, when we were going through marriage counseling, we had to put all our bills on the table because I've already been through, a situation in my past where finances, or the lack thereof, or not being transparent about what a person is doing or their value of that subject, how they value it, was really one of the main catalysts that caused that relationship to be destroyed and dissolved. There were other things, of course. But I would say that was probably one of the main, or either the main thing. Statistics out there will show that divorces in America is higher based upon finances than it is for infidelity.
Yeah, I can understand that, because that's where most of the arguments start. That's where most of the arguments start. And like you said, that transparency was one of the reasons why I was so impressed with how the kids responded to us having that session. And they didn't. A lot of these kids, I had met some of them before, but most of them, we hadn't talked to some of those kids before, especially other than just meeting them. But the way that those kids showed that transparency and willing to discuss things is the reason that Rondell was mentioning before, that we've had some of our we had some adults that reached out to us about having one of these sessions for the adults, and our apprehension with that was, will the adults, one, be willing to accept the challenge of having the group, and if they're worried about us having this as a live, we can make this a closed session. This is really to benefit us as a group. We're just trying to grow the group. This is not this session wouldn't even have to be broadcast outside of our private group. But like Rondell was saying before, we don't know if folks are willing to be that transparent to even open up and talk about what their vices are, what their struggles are, or where they have weaknesses.
I don't think I personally I don't see it happening. I mean,
I will say we did get one couple has agreed and said that they're all in.
Yeah,
so we did have one couple that has already said that.
But the preponderance of people would not venture into that room. They would tell you what's going wrong in the bedroom and how he doesn't lay it down anymore. He used to lay it down when we first got married. Now he's one pump and gone, and he rolled over and he's sleeping for the night. I'm just being 100 with you. Society has become more transparent with certain topics that they can everybody can relate to that. But I will tell you, everybody, although I'm joking, and I'm not joking, but although I am joking, society is just that transparent about finances too. It's real out here. There's people out there that every day, there's hundreds of people who go to financial counselors to try to find out a better way to conduct or manage or steward their finances that they got right now. Now, by any, I'm not saying that I'm a financial counselor. I do not have any credentials in it. The only thing that I bring to the table is experience. And and I do know that there's a lot of apprehension about speaking to this subject in front of those, because you know, like I told Adrian, some people will be like, well, you know what, I ain't trying to hear that. You on the other end. You ain't on my end where I'm at right now. You on the other end. So it's easy for you to say what you said. Yeah, but I would tell you right now, I'm not on the other end in every aspect of my life. You know, I had to first begin on the end that you possibly are in right now to be on this.
We had to
this
start.
other end.
Yeah, we had to start it. We all started at the starting line, you know, and we had a vision for where the finish line was, but we had to take a step to get there, you know.
Yeah.
And
that step was I had to respect that money. I had to start respecting that money.
You had to respect. Yeah, you had to respect it, and you had to actually take a look in the mirror and really look at yourself in the mirror, which most of us are not willing to do. You know, most of us are looking.
What are you talking about? Take a look in the mirror. You know, tell me the moment when you took a look.
Do you really want me to go there?
Yeah.
What Michael Jackson say? I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
Yeah. When did you take a look in the mirror and say, like, this is out of control? This is just out of control.
Everybody done heard my story many times over. When I thought I was on the one. You know, I thought we were cranked up. That credit score was on point. You know, we ain't had to borrow no money from mom and daddy to pay the bills. You know, we was able to move pretty much how we wanted to move.
Right.
But you know, when that tide went out, man, and when that tide went out, they exposed us for what we were. Oh my God, man! We took a long, hard look in the mirror. It was like, man, we have no clue. Yeah, we had no clue. Andy said when I was broke. Yeah. So, but yeah, man. I mean, I thought when we took that long, hard look, and like I've told everybody, I've had the car loans. I mean, at one point we had 3 car loans, had a home equity loan, we had a 401k loan, and and we didn't think nothing was wrong. We thought it was normal. We thought that's what everybody else had. You know, that's what coworkers had. You know, you should get you a home equity loan. They'll tap into that equity and remodel the house. You add value to your house. It's a tax write-off. All these things we were hearing, and we were just buying into it. We were buying into it, bro. But behind the scenes, man, we was broke as a joke. We was one or 2 paychecks away from losing from being behind. You know, and I mean, when I say behind, I'm talking about behind, like missing payments or whatever. But we never knew it. We never knew it. So, but I think it's healthy to talk about it. And that was the point one of the other couples was making after we talked with the kids. That was the other point that they were making, that it's healthy because somebody else may hear something and say, you know what, it's not just me. You know, I'm not the only one that feels this way. You know, I'm not the only one that's struggling with this. Right. You know, so yeah, so I think it's healthy to talk about it because that's same thing with the AA meetings. They have to talk about it. They have to admit that I am an alcoholic.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you'll get more hits if you say you're a recovering alcoholic. Right. I mean, I went down this venture twice. There's been times that I literally hit broke, thinking, and this is why I'm in the military. All you on the call, you think military people can't go broke? Yes, sir. They can go broke. Yeah. Before the 1st and the 15th, they already broke. And I had that moment. And you would thought that I learned when I had that moment the first time. Nah, I went broke several times while I was in the military. It wasn't until, a life-changing event happened that I realized that I cannot still operate in the same manner. Yeah. And because now it's really real. The situation is changing so quickly and so rapidly that if I don't get my enlightenment, then this time there's no coming back from it. You know, it could be a career ender or career killer for some. For me, it'd have been very hard for me to remain in the military if I hadn't gotten myself together when it came down to into one valuing the knowledge of what finance has to offer, and two, respect the dollar that I so earned and worked hard for. You know,
Right.
military men and women who go and leave home for 180 days, some up to a year, some up to 15 months, and to come home and show nothing from that absence from being gone. That's a travesty. But I've seen a lot of people do that. But that's no different from a man and woman who leaves their home every day for 8 to 12 hours, depending on what your shift is, working possibly at a place that you love or don't love, working with people who you like or don't like, doing tasks that you can manage, or a large number of tasks that you're having difficulty with, to come home to earn a wage only within the first 72 hours, maybe a week, give it a week, it's all out the door, it's gone. And then you turn around to find and ask yourself, what did I spend that $20 on again?
Right.
I know I had that 20. What did I spend it? What did I spend it on?
Right.
Right. Or you wrote one check too many that hadn't cleared yet, or you swiped one too many times that you've already swiped enough. Now overdraft fees are hitting you. And you're sitting, maybe a week out or less before the next payday comes, asking yourself, what did I do with all my money?
I know I've had that question.
Where did all this money go? And you have no way to track it. So here's what you do. You open up your app, or you open up your computer screen, and you start going down. I bought that. I don't remember buying that. You start having those conversations with yourself.
What the one did I get from Walmart Tuesday? Yeah, you don't even remember what I bought when I was there.
Yeah. And then you're looking like, well, when did I purchase that? Who's this person that I cash at? Now, mind you, if you have joining accounts and you both do not value your finances, you both on two different financial spectrums of how you think about finances, and you both don't respect the money that you earn, and you both are operating out of the same account, and you looking in there like, I know I got $100 left, I'm good. And you go in there knowing that you spent everything except the $100. I'm not saying that happened to me. So none of you guys that's on this video tonight or this call be like, Stephanie, Rondell told me about the time that he thought he had $100 and you spent the last 100. That didn't happen. This is hypothetical here. But go with it. And you looking in the account and you was like, how I'm negative $10? What happened? And so those are the things that people deal with every day.
Right.
Every day. Right. If you have a chance, or you're in your drives to work, or you happen to get up in the morning and you're getting yourself prepared for work, or you're driving home in the evening, turn on the TV, turn on the MSNBC. That's the one that I look at anyway. Look at, Power Lunch or some of these other financial shows that are up there. Some of these individuals are just not talking about stocks and bonds and this, that, and the other. They're talking about real life issues that are happening in communities, excuse me, in the communities that we all live in. How inflation is pricing us out. I was in the grocery store on Friday picking up a couple of items. The items that I picked up in the grocery store cost me $67. I'm listening to a couple in the same aisle, and it just so happened that we kept finding ourselves in the same aisle. They were really comparing chips. Can we afford this bag, or can we afford this bag? And the difference in the bags of chips were by a couple of dollars, maybe $1, or less than. If it was less than $1, we were within 90 cents of the difference in prices. And they were really, really struggling. Which one should they choose? And God knows when they went around there to the meat section, and if they wanted, can we get this ground beef right here? Well, maybe we need to get the lower grade of ground beef. It has more, all of you the fat, all of you who grew up in the country, you know about gristle. That ground beef got them bits and pieces in there that's just hard to chew. So I literally, as I was walking down the aisle, I really kind of had all the items that I need because I really don't, the way we shop, we don't need that much when we do go until we go to Costco. That's another story for another time, though.
Yeah,
But
I try to stay out of Costco.
I do, but Costco well, we'll talk about that at another day,
Yeah,
another time.
yeah.
And I'm listening to the conversations that are having in the aisles, and the conversations are primarily the same. A can of black pepper has gone up. We can't afford that brand. We need to get this brand. You know, we can't use this type of oil. We need to get this oil. We can't get this right now because they don't went up $5 on this particular item, and we can't that priced us out. But that's a common item that they have in their household.
To me, that was eggs, man. They priced when they hit $9 a carton for eggs. They priced me out. I refuse to eat eggs.
Exactly. So now you will find that more people in America, our consumer population, middle class, lower class folks, primarily, are being very more conscientious about what they're spending. But then the analyst said today, then there's a large population of people that are not taking those things into consideration, that they still are maxing out their credit cards to the maximum. And these companies are not cutting off their credit line when they're going in there and trying to get in. They had a goal, now they're going for a platinum. They may not get a black card, but they can get to that platinum where they give them more of a credit line. There's people who are buying homes, they're pricing themselves out at home because the interest rate on a home loan is higher post-COVID than it was pre-COVID, at least by maybe 4% at this time, and they're still building and buying homes. They're still going to dealerships and paying 30% higher on a used vehicle. This is not even a brand new vehicle, on a used vehicle than it was, pre-COVID.
3 years ago. Right.
And so what are we doing, guys?
Right.
But we're working longer hours. We're working 40 to 48 to 60 hours a week, to do some of the basic things that we need to get done. And that's why I believe some people will not discuss these topics in these meetings that we hold, because some of the things they're doing can, one, give back their time to them, put them in a better position, because the life that they're currently living right now, they want to maintain that current way of living. And the value system that we have in our household, when it comes down to how we manage our finances, she has her value system, I have my value system. The only value system that we have is that we need to make sure the lights are on and make sure the rent is paid. All the other stuff, we're on different spectrums on how we're going to manage that money. And some of that stems with when we were first introduced with money and how we establish our value system.
Right. So we had the question in our planning session, and it came up, what is enough? So, we always hustling. So at what point do we I know everybody has a number. They say, well, if I can just make X, I said that, several years ago. When I came out, when I was in college, I was like, man, if I can ever get me a job making $40,000 a year, I'd be set. This back in 1995. I'm like, if I can get me a job paying $40,000 a year, man, I'd be set. Then, you get the job making $40,000 a year. Now, if I can just get to 60,000, man, I'd have it made. You get to 60,000. Then you set other goals. Then next thing you know, if I can ever make six figures, make $100,000 a year, man, I ain't got to worry about nothing. You get there, and then it still ain't enough. And you constantly moving the bar up. So what happened when you were making 40,000 that changed to where now you're making, double that or triple that, and now you still seem like you haven't made anything.
Yeah. No, the only thing changes is the only thing that remained
Oh,
constant
that's
is
true.
how you think about money. The
Yeah.
thing that
Well,
changes is what you
Avery
can
made a point. He said you're behind from the lacking years.
from the lacking years.
Yeah.
Oh, trying to
So
make up for what you
all the
didn't
years are
have.
going without. So now you feel like, is that what you're talking about, Avery? All the years are going without. Now you feel like you could do a little bit more. So I call it lifestyle creep. So yeah. So I went from great value to nature's own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we went from regular Wonder Bread to potato bread.
And see, and one person said the more you make, the more you spend.
Yeah. But why is that, Brandon? Brandon, why is so if we don't have if we don't, like Rondell said, if we don't value the extra time and the effort that we put in to get to that point, how do we benefit from going from 40,000 to 70,000? That's $30,000 that you were maintaining on at 40, but now you got an extra, let's say after taxes, you got an extra 15,000 that's coming in the household that you didn't have the year before. So where did that 15,000 go if we don't have a plan for it, or we don't think about it or talk about it? So but I got you. Yeah, Avery said playing catch up from all the years that you lacked so that you can make up money. Yeah.
So
yeah,
I understand that there were times in our lives that we didn't have the best things. Granted, that's granted. Right. But are we willing to continue to sell our future for today? That's the question.
That's the difference. Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
And we've been taught to think short term, like now, and we're not looking out 5, 10, 15 years, or even the next generation, which is what we should be looking at.
So it's ironic that I just had this conversation with Stephanie, because Stephanie inquired about what we were speaking about tonight. What's the topic? And I told her, it's financial values and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then we just got into this deep discussion over dinner about it. And I was like, yeah, I said, babe, when me and Stephanie got married, we were on two different spectrums when it comes down to finances. It happens. I have a responsibility now. I have a wife. And with that responsibility, I have to be just as concerned about her future than I am about my future. She makes a wage and a revenue just like I make a wage and bring revenue into the house. However, we're going to be retired. We are not just me. I'm retired, once, but eventually we're both going to be retiring. And and Stephanie would tell you, she wasn't, very, she wasn't getting on the board about, saving at the beginning, because, she likes what she liked. Like Avery said, there were some things that she could not have done because there was a one income coming into the living place that she was living at that time. But once you got two incomes coming in here, you have a little bit more flexibility. You can open up the aperture a little bit more and do some of the things that you've always done. But at the same time, like we talk about, Stephanie and I talk about, how that benefiting the whole. If you always trying to play catch up from the years that you lack, what is that return on that investment? You will get immediate enjoyment. Yes, don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying you can't enjoy what you earned and those things. However, we can't continue to sell our future for today's enjoyment.
That's true.
We have to do something today to ensure that when tomorrow comes, or 5 years now comes, or when we get to the point of retirement, we're able to retire. Most of us maybe or may have not gone out to the Social Security website. If you go out to that Social Security website, you can put in the year, the age that you're going to retire at, and they'll tell you right up front, what is your Social Security benefit? The money that you paid into the government all those years of working, they'll tell you what the government is going to give back to you on a monthly basis. So part of my budgeting plan and my retirement plan is for me to know, I had to know what that number was. I'm not scared to tell you. At this point in time, that number is approximately like $2,500 and some change.
Right.
Now, you imagine if I continue to go YOLO today, just continue to, spend my future today.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm relying on the government, Social Security, to cover my expenses when I get to the point of retirement. I'm going to have to work well into my retirement years.
Mm-hmm.
$2,500. Go back and think about what I just told you about the people that's in the grocery store. Some of those were elderly people who are probably in that zone where they're living off of their Social Security. They call it
fixed income. Yep.
Yeah.
They say I want fixed income.
Now the fixed income, we're going Ocean's 11. The fixed income, yeah, you're absolutely right. Somebody's pockets are going to be light if I have to. But that's what it is, because I continue to sell my future for today's pleasures. Now, when tomorrow comes, that's my future. Now I'm gonna have to live. I'm gonna have to work well into my retirement years, and that thing is happening right now. We're talking about people that's probably in our working class group that are struggling with this in this inflationary crisis right now. There's a lot of people who are not the working class, so to speak, that are struggling with the things that are happening right now in America and in inflation.
Right.
And they can't keep up because inflation is pricing them out of certain necessities, not things that you like, but things that you need. And that's why I believe that we need to have these transparent conversations. That's why I believe that we need to talk to our children and even some of our young adults, or even some of us who have been in the working class for a number of years, about our financial values and in the relationships that we have. Also, how do each other see finances? Right. And then, do you really respect the dollar that you've earned? Or is that dollar just a tool for you to burn through whenever it gets in your hand?
Right. So one of the things that I picked up when we talked to the kids that I wanted to relate and bring this point out to the adults was one of the things the kids said, about the fashion in the house and how they pick up their values for certain things. And I was thinking about that after we got off the call with the kids, and me and Rondell talked about this a little bit too, about that value. So like one of the kids said that it wasn't explicitly said that you had to dress a certain way or that your shoes had to match or you had to have a certain kind of outfit, but her family showed her, she looked around at her family and this is what she saw. And then we had another kid that said his dad went out and bought the new Jordans. And then, so his other family members end up going out buying new shoes. And he said he wanted to feel good too. So he went out and bought him a new pair of shoes too, because he wanted to feel good, So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so if the kids are watching what we're doing and they're picking up on some of the things we do to feel better or what we perceive makes us feel better, what if we're teaching them some of these financial things that we didn't know before and we're starting to learn now, like about investing in stocks? Like, I was so proud of my daughter. She came in the other day. She was like, Dad, I pulled up, and I didn't even know she was even logging into her account. She was like, I pulled up my stock account, that she had, and she said she was talking to it with some of her classmates, and she said she was, and they were shocked that she owned Apple, that she owned some Nike, that she owned, some of these other stocks, and she was talking to them about how much she had made in dividends on some of these other stocks, and that was like, okay, so had I not made this change, 4 years ago and started talking to her about that, then it is it just, oh, that's great, Avery. Yeah, God is pattern. So it just shows you that our kids are watching what we're doing, and they're actually, even though we may not see it all the time, they're I didn't realize that she was even listening to me to that point. So when she came back and told me about her looking at that, and then I was explaining to her about what I had been learning over the years, with reading charts and all that kind of stuff, and understanding when is the right time to buy certain stocks and this kind of stuff. And she actually sat down beside me and was listening. She's like, "Oh, so that's what that means." So the kids are looking at the value systems that we're setting. So if
Mm-hmm.
we would take the initiative and learn some of these value systems and talk about budgeting and talk about saving and talk about credit and some of the pitfalls of credit, and over exerting yourself with credit and relying on credit in some of the ways that we do, I think that the kids will listen, and it will help them get off to a better start. Not only will that benefit the kids, but it'll also benefit us, because now we're starting to make moves and do things that are not so much for our enjoyment, but we're building things for them for the future, so that they don't have. So what if each one of us could have started out where the parents had a trust or something set aside, that we could have started out with a $50,000 down payment on our first home, the way that money was already set aside for us from a future, from a grandparent or somebody else, instead of us, taking that money and spending it on a $50,000, $60,000 car. Like I gave the analogy when we did the financial literacy at church, that if somebody had took $10,000, invested in the S&P 500, and it just $10,000, put that in there and left it alone for 40 years, that $10,000 would be worth $500,000 in 40 years. So imagine you just took 10,000, instead of buying the $40,000 car, you bought a $30,000 car, and then took the other 10 and put it in an account for future, you know, just for future, and just leave it alone. How would we as a family be able to provide and start our next generation off? That money can pay for maybe not your kids' college fund, but it can pay for their kids' college fund, And there's things that we don't know, that we don't understand, that we choose not to understand, because we say, I don't know nothing about that, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Well, that's a decision.
Yeah, that's a decision. That's the choices that we make. We
Right.
make the choice to go sign the paperwork to buy a 40, 50. And I don't even know how these people are driving these new Yukon Denali's and these things pricing out at 80, 90. I seen one Denali priced out at $119,000. I'm like, who in the world is spending this on a truck? I was like, man. So that just goes to show you that how we are value for money. So there's different. That's what we talk about when we're talking about value. What do you value? Where's your value? Is your value in your driveway? Is your value in your closet? Is your, like Tracy said, lease?
Even lease. So now you paying on something that you're never intent to own anyway. You're leasing that enjoyment for a number of years, or based upon the term.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, we're gonna have to change our values and the way how we look at money and finances.
Right.
But some of you in your household, you probably already got it all together. You look at money and you value it. Others, you may understand that, this is how we value it. We're not going to change our behavior. We're just not going to change our behavior. This may not be for you.
Right. That's fair.
And but at the same time, what's happening in our society right now, that's for real.
Right.
You and I and our kids, those who have them, are going to encounter what's happening in society right now. There's no way to run from it. Inflation is going to happen. It's going to come and go. The jobs are going to be, in abundance one time, and there's not going to be so much in abundance at another time within the economical life cycle. And then they're going to have to be able to navigate this land with that. If there was a drought in the land, how were they able to maintain during those years of drought? You
Right.
know,
Right.
they realized that they needed to store something up. So
Right.
when those times came, they were able to withstand the drought
withstand it,
until
right.
the season changed, where there was another season where there was going to be where you can plant and harvest
Right.
during that season. Right
Yeah.
now, I feel
Yeah.
like there's a drought that's happening, or it's going to happen, where
Right.
it be
Right.
by what's happening in the economy, or it's manufactured. I mean, Avery can probably explain about the economical cycles that we're going through right now better than I could. But we need to prepare. And I think reevaluating your value system, you're not reevaluating your value system for us. You're doing it for those who are in your home.
Right.
Or the marriage you're about to go into.
Mm-hmm.
Or the relationship you're currently in, or the marriage you're currently in. And then reevaluating what does it actually take for you to make that money. So we're going to throw this challenge out to everyone, because it's 8 o'clock, and everybody know on this call I go to bed at 8:30 on the dot. So let me put this out here too. In the next 2 weeks, we have Juneteenth. So I'm not going to be on during that time. I plan, me and my wife, we're going to be going out of town during that time. However, I think there's enough time for we all to get together on the 26th. I believe that's the following Monday after Juneteenth. It's the 26th. We would love to have this open and transparent conversation about this subject that we're talking about tonight. So if you take some time and talk it over with your loved one, mull it over for yourself, and reach out. If you would like to have an open discussion about what we talked about tonight, we're all for it. We can. We would love to hear from you guys and your thoughts on what we're saying in regards to this topic.
Mm-hmm.
But if not, it just proved what I just said. Ain't nobody talking about no finance.
Right. So just to give y'all some background story, Rondell is in strong belief that nobody on here is going to talk about anything. It was like nobody's willing to have these conversations. Nobody's willing to talk about it. And
I think you'll talk about sex open and honestly before you talk about finances. Right. You'll show your birthday suit on this piece before you talk about finances.
Me, on the other hand, I have a lot more confidence in y'all. So hopefully y'all don't prove me wrong. But so we on two different. We don't like Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless, even though they just broke up. So but we would love to, the same way the kids set the example of transparency. We can have an open forum. And what the other couple that reached out to us about us having something with the adults said is that based on what they saw with the kids, there's some adults out there that can learn from other adults as well. What some of the vices that they may have, some of the struggles that they may have gone through, and how they overcame them, or would like to have it, some feedback from somebody else who maybe overcame them. Some of the things that they did to make a change, and how hard it is, because it's we're not going to tell you that it's easy to do this, because it's a whole mindset shift. Because I like it to when I came to Christ, and the mindset shift that I had to make with some of my habits, and I couldn't get mad as quickly as as I did before. I couldn't do certain things. I couldn't lash out in certain ways because I was upset. There's certain changes that we make, when we change that mindset. Look, Sandy said I'm gonna ball out of control until I go.
And you know what? I've heard that too.
Angie,
I've heard that too.
That's 80% of people, Angie. So you ain't alone. We already said that there's only about 20% of people that's gonna listen to what we're talking about and actually say that makes sense. But yeah, I think you're messing with us, Angie. Angie,
I don't think she messed.
For y'all that don't know, Angie been with me and Rondell for the last 30 years. We talked about the other day, Angie. when Rondell showed up in that biology class in that bathroom, Angie said he showed up in the bathroom.
This has nothing to do with tonight's discussion. Nothing at all.
Anyway, we already over time, guys, but we're gonna wrap it up. So, but anyway, guys, we putting the challenge out there. Like I said, if you're in or if you want to participate in the session, we're gonna have it'll be in 3 weeks because Rondell don't want to work on a holiday. So our next session is actually going to be on Juneteenth. But he told me before this session that it's Juneteenth, so he's taking this holiday.
Yeah, I'm being 100 with you.
We're going to be back on the 26th. So that gives us a little more time for you guys to think it over, and we kind of plan it out. And we'll send out the link just like we did with the kids. And if you guys want to join, you're more than welcome. You can have your camera on and off if you want to. And if if everybody as a whole doesn't want it, to be live, we can do a private session because really the whole benefit of this is to help everybody else as a group and for us to change our mindset when it comes to our finance.
Yeah, it's about cross-pollination of ideas. Everybody comes from different walks of life. This is a no judgment zone. That's what I want to say. So let me put that out there first. I'm not judging anybody how you operate. The way you operate is the way you operate. That's your household. You don't live in the Smith household, you live in your household. So therefore, we're not casting judgment on anyone, how they operate in their household. It's exchanging of ideas, being transparent to see how others operate, and what can you take from that? There may be some nuggets that you could possibly take from those conversations. I sit around and I talk to a lot of people that works in the government industry, and some of those who are program managers and some of those who are logisticians. And a lot of those individuals operate differently, but there's some nuggets that I can take out of those conversations that can help me be better in the lane that we're operating in, whether it be myself or whether it be my wife or whether it be us collectively as a group. And so that's what it's all about. It's about cross-pollination of ideas and getting levels of understanding. It's not about judgment, or anything of that nature. So that's what I want to dispel right now. If you think you come in here and we're going to leave here or put it on video, that joke was in debt. No, that's not what it's all about, because we're all indebted to someone. We're all indebted to Jesus, who saved us, from the life that we were living. We're indebted to God. And so, but we're talking about financial debt here, and how can we be better as a people, whether it be us as African Americans or whether it be us as a community of Americans, how can we be better? Because you'll never know who you may run into, and you pass that nugget that you've learned from someone else in the group that can help them out in a situation that they're currently in. That's what that's what it's all about for me.
Right. So with that being said, guys, we appreciate everybody, taking the time and hanging in there with us. I know we went over by about 7 minutes tonight, but we really are passionate about this, and we thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts for sticking with us, and we really appreciate it. And like I said, we're putting the challenge out there. The next session we're going to have will be and the adult version of what we did with the teens. So if you haven't seen what the teens did, feel free to go out there and take a look at it, because what we want to do is start instilling this into our children so that, when we do leave them an inheritance, they know what to do with it and know how to manage it. So,
man,
all right,
Angie
guys.
tripping, boy. She's tripping. All over it. She's tripping hard.
I'm glad to have you in here, Angie.
Tell me they're gonna put her in the home.
Glad to have you in here.
Yeah, Angie gonna be a crusty old woman anyway. You might want to put her in the home anyhow.
So, guys, you guys have a good night, and feel free to, like I said, leave a comment if you plan on joining us, and we'll make sure we get you guys on the link with the email. You guys know how to get in touch with us. You can message us, or you can reach Rhea Rundown, and we'll get you the email address and send it to you. So. But I know Angie just poking fun at us, y'all.
Man, forget that girl, man.
Yeah. So, but all right, guys.
I love her,
have a good night. We'll talk to y'all on the 26th. All right. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
All right.